This video is all about finding the area of triangles. Now, first we're going to look at a visual and figure out how to find the area using a visual model. Then we're going to use the formula, learn about the formula and why it works. And then lastly, we're going to apply it to different triangles that we might encounter. So the first thing I want to do is hold up a visual of a triangle. Now, what I've done ahead of time is I've drawn a grid because we know when we're looking at things like rectangles, we can just count the boxes that cover the area or the square units that cover the area. Now, it's really hard with a triangle because if you'll notice, a lot of these squares got cut off and it's kind of hard to notice how many squares we have. But what I've done is I've taken this triangle and I've made one exactly the same size. And if you put two of them together, you make a rectangle. So I'm going to show you that again. If I pile them up, it's the same triangle. But if I put them together, it's a rectangle. So what we can do is we can use the formula for a rectangle, and then we're just going to cut it in half to make our triangle. So if you remember back to a previous lesson, the formula for a rectangle's area is length times width, or in this case, we're going to call it base times height. So 3 times 4 for this rectangle made 12 square units, but I don't want the rectangle, I want the triangle. And so if we take 4 times 3 is 12 units, square units, and then we're going to cut it in half, we would get 6 square units. And if I were to take these little pieces and cut them up and put them together, you would actually get 6 full squares if we were to be a little creative. So our formula for triangles is base times height, but we have to remember that that would give us a rectangle. So to get the triangle, we're going to cut that in half. And that's exactly how we get our formula. We're going to do the area of a triangle today by taking 1/2 of the base times height. Another way to think about that is we can multiply the base times height first, and then we can cut it in half or divide it by 2 to get the area of just the triangle rather than a large rectangle. So let's apply this formula to 3 different types of triangles that we might see. So I've drawn a couple different triangles. Some or all of these might be freebies, so feel free to pause this right now and grab a piece of paper and write it down if it's going to help you. So first we have like this large triangle. It looks like some type maybe of obtuse. It's definitely isosceles because we've got the 2 sides that are the same. But what we need to do is first write down our formula. So I recommend writing this down every time. So the area equals 1/2 base times height. Now I have to decide what's the base and what's the height. The base was easy for me to find because it's what's resting on my table. So that's my base. Now my height, we have to remember the idea of going to the doctor's office. When they ask me to stand tall and straight for my height, that perfect perpendicular to the floor. I'm standing straight and tall. I'm not standing slanted. So I don't want to pick a slanted side. I want that vertical height that's standing straight up and down. And this perfect 90-degree angle is a really good helpful trick. Okay, so let's plug these in. Area equals 1/2 times the base, which was 18, times the height, which I chose was the 12 measurement, not those 15s. Okay. Because in multiplication, I can multiply things in any order, I'm going to choose which way I want to do this. So I could do 18 times 12 and then cut it in half. A lot of people do that. You can also choose to do something. I'm going to do it in a little different order because I actually see some math I can do in my head. So I'm going to pick these 2 first. 1/2 times 18. That means what's a half of 18? Or take 18 and divide it by 2. Cut it in half. I know that that's 9. Now I'm going to bring down my 12 because I have another step. So my area is 9 times 12. Now, if you know your 12s facts, you should know this already. And if you don't, you're welcome to jot at any time your math off to the side and you can solve it that way too. So a lot of people have to do it this way and they get 108. So area is 108. And it's units squared or square units because they didn't tell me inches or centimeters. It's units and units squared for area. Here's my answer. Let's try it for another triangle. Okay, so for this one, again, area equals 1/2 because it's a triangle, base times height. Now my base is the 30. My height is not the 50, that's the slanted side. We want to pick this 40 because of the right angle right here. So my area equals 1/2 times 30 times 40. Okay, so once again, you can do this in any order. Some people do 30 times 40 and then they cut it in half. You could do a half of 30, you could do a half of 40 and then do the rest. Because it's multiplying, we know that we can multiply things in any order. I'm, once again, just gonna go in the order that I see because I know some of this math. I know half of 30 is 15. And I'm gonna do 15 times 40 and that will give me my answer, okay? Now I can actually do this mental math and here's why. I know 15 times 4 because that's like a clock to me. 15 minutes, another 15 minutes makes 30 minutes, another 15 minutes makes 45, and a fourth one makes 60 minutes. And then I just have to put this 0 on. So I got 60, add this 0 back in. So my area equals 600 units squared. Keep in mind, if you didn't do yours in the same order, you might have gotten different numbers along the way, but we should all agree on our final answer of 600 units squared. Okay, let's try our final one. And that is, ooh, this is a scalene triangle. So it's kind of slanted. And I wanted to do this because I wanted to remind you that sometimes I might put measurements off to the side outside of the actual triangle itself. Okay, area equals 1/2 base times height. So my base is 7 because it's resting on my table. The 14 is a slanted side. The 12 is a slanted side. I'm going to pick the 9 because it's that perpendicular, that perfect right angle, and it's going to be my straight and tall height like at the doctor's office. So area equals 1/2. Base was 7, height was 9. Okay, now I'm going to go a little out of order on this one because I'm going to have to do a little bit of trickier math today. So I don't know a half of 7 or a half of 9 right away. Some of you might, and that's okay. I'm going to do 7 times 9 first because I know it. So area equals 1/2 times, and 7 times 9 is 63. Now the reason I chose that is because the 63 was a fact I knew. So you're always looking for things that you know how to do first. Now I have to cut that in half. A way to do that is to divide it by 2. I know that if I have a cake and I cut it in half, I divided it into 2 slices. So I need to do now 63 divided by 2 is a way to think about this. And I don't know that off the top of my head. I'm definitely going to have to show my work here. So I'm going to do 63 and I'm going to take half of it. So I'm going to cut it in half or divide it by 2. Okay, 2 goes into 6 3 times. It's exactly 6 and no leftovers. Bring down our 3. 2 goes into 3 once. There's 1 left over. So I can either do a decimal or I know that it's remainder 1, but I'm going to not give a remainder in my answer. I'm going to convert it to a fraction. So area equals 31. My remainder was 1, so I'm going to put that on top of my fraction. And what was I dividing by? I was dividing by 2. So 31.5. Now, if you were a decimal person instead, and you did decimal 0, put up my decimal. Okay, if I brought down my 0, 2 goes into 10 5 times with no leftovers. So 31.5 would have been another way to say it. Both of those mean the same thing. 31.5, 31.5, they are units squared. And that would be our final answer. So as always, I recommend that you go back and work on this again if you need to. You can even pause it here. I'm going to step out of the screen in a moment if you want to pause it here and take a look, write all this stuff down. Good luck today on your assignment. Hopefully some of these helped you out. Maybe there were some freebies hidden in there. Do your best today, and I can't wait to see your work.